What up, y'all, and welcome to the Wizard's Forge. In this video, we're going to be expanding off the dungeon that we started in our last video. So, first thing we're going to do is add this trick wall, then we're going to add these two magic triggers that'll cause the door to open when the player finds and activates both of them. And then we can open up this door by placing the Incendio puzzle cube on the Incendio magic trigger, and casting Incendio on it. And then there's one more, so I hid this over here. So if we cast Revelio, we can see our Levioso cube hidden behind these barrels, so if we break those, we can drag this over to the second magic trigger, and then when we cast Levioso on it, the door will open. And then next up, we're going to do some set dressing, so we're going to find these assets in the Creator Kit, then we're going to add them in just to make our dungeon feel a little more fleshed out. And then we're going to finish off this room by adding a hidden treasure that the player can find. So we're going to add this hidden door when the player navigates to it and casts Incendio. It's going to rotate around, and then reveal a treasure that the player can interact with. With that being said, let's get started. Now the first thing I want to do with this dungeon is going to be create a wall opening to enter the next section. So first thing I'm going to do is this wall size, I'm going to set it from double to single. If I try to make a wall opening while it's set to double, the wall opening will be on both of these panels, which will be too big for what I want to do right now. And then with this wall selected, I'm going to go to the details panel and scroll down to the create opening section. Then I'm going to press this plus button to add an opening. Then I'm going to select this drop down next to the 0. Then in segments, I'm going to switch this from 0 to 2. Quick programming side note, most programs start counting at 0 instead of 1. So even though this is our first, second, third segment of our wall, since we start counting at 0, this will be 0, 1, 2. Then we'll set this as our second segment. Then we're going to go down to alcove type, and then we're going to switch this from large arc to blank. Then we're going to scroll up to our stat count and then switch this from 1 to 2. Then if we load into the dungeon, we'll see our new wall opening. Next thing we're going to do is add a trick wall blueprint, so the player has to do something in this room in order to progress to the next section of our dungeon. To add our trick wall blueprint, we're going to navigate to Content, Gameplay, Blueprint, Traps, and then drag this BP_trick wall into our level. Then I'm going to move the trick wall blueprint so it aligns with the rest of our wall. Then I want my trick wall blueprint to have the same textures as the other walls, so I'm going to find this Castle Dungeon wall, large brick A material, located at Content, Environment, Castle Dungeons, Materials, and Wall. With this material selected in the Content browser, I'm going to select the trick wall in our level, and then go down to this skeletal mesh component. Then we're going to scroll down to the Details panel until we find the Materials section, then press this arrow key to replace the current material with the one we have selected. Now this trick wall is currently facing the wrong way, so to fix this, I'm going to rotate it in the Z-axis 180 degrees. I'm going to find the rotation, Z, and then set this from 0 to 180. Then if we load into our dungeon, we'll see our trick wall. Then if we get close to it, it's going to automatically take the player to the next section of the dungeon. Now I don't want this trick wall to automatically trigger, I want the player to have to solve some kind of puzzle in here in order to access the next room. So with this trick wall is selected, I'm going to go to the details panel and then set trap to false. Now this trick wall isn't going to trigger automatically anymore, so we want to set how we want it to trigger. So with this wall selected, we're going to go to the details panel and select use switch and turn it to true. And then for the trigger, I want to use this BP_magic trigger blueprint located at Content, Gameplay, Blueprints, Universal, and then I'll drag and drop this into my level. Then if we load into our level, we'll see our BP magic trigger exactly where we placed it. And with our magic trigger blueprint selected, we're going to scroll down to the details panel and then select the spell that we want to trigger it. So instead of Glacius, I want it to be triggered by Levioso. Then I'm going to find this BP_puzzle_cube_Levioso located at the same folder, Content, Gameplay, Blueprint, Universal, and then drag and drop it into our level. Now that we have a Levioso puzzle cube and a Levioso magic trigger, all we need to do is set it to open this door whenever this magic trigger is activated. So we'll select our magic trigger in our level, then we'll go over to the details panel and navigate down to this target BP section. We're going to press this plus button next to the array to add an element. Then we just need to set whatever element we want to activate whenever this magic trigger is triggered. So I'm going to open this trick wall whenever this is activated. So I'm going to go to this target BP, then I'm going to select this little eyedropper to pick an actor from the scene, and then I'm going to select our trick wall. Then if we load into our level and navigate to this trick wall, it's not going to open automatically. But if we go to this magic trigger, we're going to activate this cube over to it, and then cast Levioso, we'll see the door opens, and then we can go to the next section. And then if you'd like your trick wall to need more than one trigger to activate it, you can select your trick wall, then go down to required switches and switch this from 1 to 2. Then if we load into our level and try to activate this trick wall with only the one Levioso cube, we'll see that it doesn't open because now we require 2 different triggers to activate this wall. Now to create a second trigger, I can repeat all the steps I did before, find it in the content browser, drag and drop into our level, or I can select the one we already have in our level, and I'm going to press the W key to activate the move widget, then I'm going to hold Alt and then drag this somewhere else to create a duplicate copy. Since we duplicated it, this magic trigger already has a target BP set to trick wall, so all I need to do is change the required spell. So instead of Levioso, I want this to be triggered by Incendio. Last thing we need to open up this wall is going to be to add an Incendio puzzle cube. The easiest way to find this is to select the Levioso cube, then press Ctrl B to navigate back to it in the content browser. Then I'm going to find the puzzle cube Incendio and then drag and drop this into our level. Now if we load into our level, this wall is not going to open until both the Leviosa cube and the Incendio cube are both triggered. So I already put both these cubes on their triggers, so I'm just going to navigate over to the Leviosa cube, and I'm going to cast Levioso, and then as soon as I cast Incendio on this cube, we'll see the door open. And then the last thing for this trick wall is I want it to stay open after it's activated. So I'm going to select our trick wall on our level, then I'm going to go to the details panel, and then when I find leave open, I'm going to set it to true. Then next up is going to be my favorite part, which is decorating our dungeon. The first thing I'm going to add is going to be this rug end located at Content, Environment, Hogwarts, Meshes, and Props. I'm going to drag this into our level and then move it where I want it to be. Now I want this player to be standing directly on the rug whenever they load into our level, so I rotate it 180 degrees and then put it directly under the player's start. Then we're going to find the rug Y middle located at the same folder and then drag and drop it into our level, and then we're going to move it where we want it to be. Now I usually just move this by eye until they look like they're in the right location, but if you want to double check that they're exact, if you select both of these and check the location, the X and the Z coordinate should stay the same, and the Y coordinate is going to change by 300. So if I select this one, then select this one, the only thing that changes is going to be this Y location. And then with this rug middle selected, I'm going to hold the Alt key, then I'm going to move it 200 units on the X-axis, and then I'm going to repeat this until it fills up the entire dungeon floor. Now that we have our rug leading up to our trick wall, we can start decorating this section of our dungeon with different assets from the Creator Kit. The first thing we want to add is going to be this barrel stack large A blueprint located at Content, Environment, Objects, and Population. So I'm going to select in the Content browser and then drag and drop it into my level. Next thing I want to do is make this Levioso puzzle cube harder to find, so I'm going to move it in the corner of my dungeon and then surround it by some breakable barrels. Then when I have this Levioso puzzle cube placed where I want it, I'm going to find this prop barrel breakable A blueprint located at Content, Environment, Objects, Blueprints, and then drag and drop it into my level. Then I'm going to duplicate this breakable barrel a couple times just so it covers the puzzle cube. So with the breakable barrel selected, I'm going to hold the Alt key, then move it on the Y-axis, and then move it on the X-axis a little bit to cover the barrel. Then I'm going to repeat that step until that puzzle cube is completely hidden. Then if we load into our dungeon, we'll see that our puzzle cube is hidden behind these 3 barrels, so as soon as we break those, we'll be able to activate the puzzle cube, and then bring it over to the magic trigger. Then I think it'd be cool to have some hanging cages scattered around our room, so I'm going to find this located at Content, Environment, Castle Dungeon Destructible. Then I'm going to find this hanging cage A and drag and drop it into my level. Then when I have that cage positioned where I want it, I'm going to select one of these BP chains that I used to hold the braziers, then I'll hold the Alt key, and then drag and drop it to make a duplicate. And then I'm going to select this white cube at the bottom of our chain, and with our move widget selected, I'm going to drag it down until it matches up with our hanging cage. And then with our chain and the hanging cage both selected, I can hold the Alt key and then duplicate these both across our room. And then I just repeat that process until I have them placed where I want them. Now I also like this Hippogriff statue-based static mesh located in the same folder. I'm going to select it and drag and drop it into my level and place it by the entrance. Then when I have this statue placed where I want it, I'm going to go over to the transform and go to the Z rotation and then switch this from 0 to -90. Then I'm going to select this statue and I'm going to hold the Alt key, then I'm going to create a duplicate copy and move it to the other side of the entrance. And then I want these 2 statues facing the opposite way from each other, so once I have this placed where I want it, I'm going to go over to the transform, and go to scale, and then I'm going to switch this X scale from 1 to -1. Now that we have our statues by our entrance, we have our puzzle cube hidden over here, I'm going to add a gameplay element to this wall just to make our dungeon feel a little more interesting. To do this, I'm going to add a wall opening to our second column. So with our wall selected, I'm going to scroll down the details panel until I see create opening, then press the plus button to add an element. Then I'm going to select this drop down under create opening, and then in segment, I'm going to switch this from 0 to 1. Now remember, even though this is the second segment we see visually, since the creator kit starts counting at 0, this is going to be 0, 1, then we're going to set it as our first segment. And then this time I'm just going to switch the alcove type from large arc to blank. Then it's going to create a blank opening in both of these stacks. Next up, I'm going to find this statue hidden door blueprint located at content, gameplay, blueprint, traps, and then I'm going to drag and drop it into my dungeon. And then when I have this blueprint placed where I want it, I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees on the z-axis just so it's facing the other way. So with this blueprint selected, I'm going to go over to transform, and then rotation, and then on the z-axis, I'm going to switch it from 0 to 180. Then if I load into my dungeon, then navigate over to my trick wall, if I cast Incendia on this, it's going to rotate around. And then if I step up on this, it's going to rotate me 180 degrees, and then bring me to the other side of this trick wall. Now, this isn't what I want for this dungeon right now, so there's a couple things I'm going to edit. The first thing I'm going to do is select this hidden wall, then in this details panel I'm going to scroll down until I find this hidden door section. Then I want this hidden door to give the player a chest instead of teleporting them to the other side, so with hidden door selected I'm going to search chest underscore D, then I'm going to select this BP underscore container underscore HW underscore chest D. And then if I load into this level, then navigate over to this hidden door, if I cast Incendio on this pyre, it's going to rotate around, and then give me a chest that I can interact with, and then get some loot. And then before this video gets too long, I'm going to finish it off by uploading our mod. So I'm going to make sure everything's saved, then I'm going to select this upload mod button up at the top. Then I'm going to make sure this correct mod is selected, so I have WFM underscore dungeon underscore 01. Then I'm going to select this upload button. Thanks for watching, and that's going to be it for this video. If you found it helpful, like and subscribe, and let me know what kinds of videos and tutorials you'd like to see next. Wizards Forge Mods, out.